Hello, everybody. It is 10:01 p.m. Central Time on Monday, November 7th, 2016. Welcome into the Earthquake 3D live stream, where we daily recap the events that strike around the planet, and we issue semi-daily earthquake forecasts for new areas to watch for movement. And I'd like to just jump right in, first of all, to say, everybody in chat, welcome in. Hi to all the people I'm seeing scroll by on the screen here. Just everybody. I got your letters. I'm going to be doing an unboxing tonight, by the way. I got several letters and packages to my P.O. box from my viewers, and this is very much appreciated. So some of the people in chat here tonight, Mary Jane and a couple other of you guys, got your packages here. I will be opening them tonight, probably after midnight, with a beer in hand, just to celebrate everybody's generosity sending all this stuff. So, absolutely amazing, guys. Let's get into the earthquakes, though, okay? So, since last night, what happened? Well, first of all, today, in Italy, start of the day, technically the end of the day, I suppose, over there, 4.1 earthquake struck in central Italy, right where we warned. And this is no shock. I don't think anybody who watched last night's update would be shocked to find out tonight that a 4.1 earthquake hit central Italy. The reason a 4.1 hit there is because of yesterday's 4.0 in Cyprus, followed by about 5 to 6 threes to mid 3.0 across Turkey and Greece. So the 4 in Cyprus plus the 3s in Turkey and Greece added up exactly as expected and struck in central Italy with a 4.1. Then today, throughout the day, a series of other strange events began to develop in Europe. First of all, today, a deep 4.5 was reported at 300 kilometers down below Turkey. The Turkish agency did not report it, however, the Montenegro agency did. I showed that earlier in videos, which I'm not going to show you now. We won't waste your time showing it to you, other than to tell you possibly a 4.5 occurred down below central Turkey at 300 kilometers deep. Well, a deep 4.5 can lead to a shallow 5.5 to 6.5. And the only way we're really going to know if that earthquake really happened, like the agency in Montenegro reported, is to see if there's other movement that follows it up. It's going to be the test. Whether or not there was an earthquake, we will see a 5.5 to 6.5 strike in a nearby area to Turkey, if the 4.5 happened. Now, did it happen? Well, it's on multiple lists, multiple reporting of it on multiple stations, but one agency reporting, the other agency not. I just have to report to you that I think it may have happened. Well, I think whatever I'm seeing on the screen. So, as a science lover, as a person who follows earthquakes around the world, if I see multiple stations reporting a 5, I have to assume, or 4.5, I have to assume that that's not a erroneous station, one station, making an error. Now, if that was the only earthquake today that did that, we might say, okay, it was just a mistake. But same time today as the deep 4.5 in Turkey, just a few hours before, we had a 5.2, I believe, report over here in West India. Also, a 5.2 to 5.4 in Uzbekistan. And a 5.6 up here in Siberia. 3 5s reported across Russia, Uzbekistan, and India, but didn't make it on the map, just like the 4.5 in Turkey. So from Turkey to Siberia, we supposedly had movement today, but it's not reported by the USGS or EMSC. What's going on? Well, yesterday we issued a warning to watch to the west and southwest of this deep 4.7 that you see on the screen here now. And I'm going to turn on the display capture so you guys can see my mouse. Okay, now when you take a look at it, we'll zoom in. Here's the 4.6. I'm going to highlight it. And I told you guys to watch for a shallow 5.6 to 6.6 to strike to the west and southwest from the 4.6, correct? Well, we had a 5.6 strike out here in South Siberia, west. And I also mentioned how if the plate boundary were to move, instead of as the crow flies, you remember last night I talked about as the crow flies from the 4.6 down to the 4.2, directly across Mongolia and China, right? And I mentioned Siberia, correct? Well, Siberia got hit today with a 5.6. At the same time that happened, a 5.6 struck down here at the halfway point that I mentioned. Because I said, well, if we go as the plate boundary goes, we would have to go from the 4.6 all the way up here to the north, raised high off the globe again. I'll highlight it one more time. We would have to go from there in North Japan and then go all the way down the ridge, down to the south through the Philippines, and then bend to the west. And our halfway point was where? I pointed it out on the map, right here. And look, a 5.6 struck and was reported by both agencies. So both areas got hit by equal size movement, 2 5.6s in both areas that we named. Now that's amazing, but you don't see the ones in Russia. Why? Why? So a deep 300-kilometer deep, possible 4.5, struck in Turkey. Other 5s struck back across the Mideast going up into Siberia. Well, if that's the case, that should put a tremendous amount of new pressure back into South Europe. Tremendous. It should up us back up into the 5.0 range in the next couple days, if they occurred. Now, leading into that, kind of proof that something did occur down below Turkey, we just had a new deep 2.7 strike down below Serbia. 358 kilometers deep, guys. A very deep European earthquake. Take a look at it. Okay, what does it mean? Well, a deep 2.7 can lead to a shallow 3.7 to 4.7 in one of the very close nearby areas that are currently moving. Well, what area is that? Well, it's pretty obvious. Central Italy, right? Excuse me. So, what are we watching for? Two things. One, the obvious thing that we're watching for, the earthquake that struck over to the east, the one that we have proof on, the one that is being listed by the agencies, the 2.7. Okay, a 2.7 can lead to a 3.7 to 4.7. That alone right there elevates our risk level back in central Italy, back up to the potential of a 4.7. That's because of the deep earthquake just to your east. Okay? Now, secondly, if these deep earthquakes happened, or the 4.5 happened 300 kilometers below Turkey, Turkey right here, if that happened today, and the other 3 different 5s happened across Asia, then that's going to put 5.0 pressure to the west. So, topping out right now, real charts, we have potential of 4.7. If we include the 5s back behind here, it takes us up a whole notch. So, and when I say a whole notch, I mean a whole magnitude. So we wouldn't just be looking for a 4.7 in the next 48 hours, we would be looking for a 5.7 if those earthquakes struck. And I keep saying if because, damn it, I don't know. And all I know is that they're reported by multiple agencies from multiple stations, and we're not getting fed by our agencies. That's all I know. Montenegro is giving it to us, right? You got to go to the Montenegro site to get the information. What? On a 4.5? And this is like, how many times has this happened this week? It has happened so much since the earthquake started in Italy that it's tremendous. I mean, it is through the roof how much we're not getting shown at this point. Now, I don't know why. I really don't know why. Okay? So, that being said, you now know what to watch for. Potential 4.7 right now, 48 hours, up to 5.7 if those earthquakes happened. So we have to watch. We have to guess. I hate guessing. I don't like guessing. I don't like putting chance on it. You know me, guys. Name me one forecast where I've had to be like, well, don't know. I mean, this is ridiculous. So, again, we just have to base it upon what the seismologist page shows us, and that showed us 5s across the middle portion of Asia going up into Siberia. Now, look at what happened here in the West Pacific. This is interesting. Now, we talked about how we had to watch our middle point, right? Middle point we talked about last night. And look what struck. We have our deep 4.7 over to the east, and we had our deep 4.3, 4.4 over to the west. You don't see it on the map here now. But look what struck in between. 5.4, right in the middle, baby. And why did it strike in the middle? Because that's the fulcrum point. It happens every single time this way. There is bar none. It doesn't matter the difference of distance between the two earthquakes that we're measuring between. When you look to those middle points, the middle point is always, again, between our two zones that are moving, whether it's 5,000 miles apart or 100 miles apart. Now, also, I mentioned Taiwan. Taiwan, southeast coast, struck again by a 5.0, downgraded to 4.8, but there it is, southeast coast, twice in the last 2 days, and it had been, well over a week, week and a half since any earthquake activity struck there, and it finally got hit. Now, the area right next to Krakatoa was hit by that mid-range 5, a result of the earthquake all the way up here in Japan, pressing down and around the bend. Now, keep in mind, the earthquake that struck up in Japan and the deep earthquake that happened down below Philippines yesterday, where this 4.4 is now, we also saw new movement strike across Australia. Now, I don't normally go into Australia very much, but let's do this really quick. Take a look at the earthquakes reported by the Australian agency over the past, let's make sure we got this right. Let me get the data on this. Wait for it to load. Dang, it's taking a long time. I got some data outage down in Australia or something. Okay, here we go. November 6th, so they have it listed as technically as yesterday, but I suppose our time it might be a little different. 5.1 striking in northern Australia. USGS, I think, took it down to 4.5. But check it out. I mean, it's a direct middle point between our two deep earthquakes that happened just a couple days ago. Now, you don't see those on the map here, but again, I showed those to you last night. Now, the 5.1 in North Australia was followed today, this afternoon, by a 3.4 down in southwest Australia. And I've explained this to you guys before. When deep earthquakes happen north of Australia, it puts that upwelling pressure, like I was talking about before, underneath the whole area, the whole West Pacific. And so as this pressure is coming up, it translates upwards and outwards and causes larger earthquakes. So there was a deep 4.3 pretty much due north of the 5.1 that you see now, striking up in the Philippines. Okay, so that deep 4.3 caused a shallow 5.1 in Australia, followed by new movement around the perimeter of the plate, because again, we have upwelling pressure coming up on the underside of all of Australia from the north, and it's pushing to the south. And as if we needed any more proof that it was pushing from the north to the south in this case because of the deep earthquakes, again, the whole West Pacific plate, from Japan all the way up here, down all the way to Fiji, has been uplifted over the past day. That then displaced all of Australia down to the south and now has displaced down near Antarctica. By the way, Antarctica, John Kerry going down there today. John Kerry, the Secretary of State, down there right now. Down there right now. And now Antarctica gets struck. I mean, right along the perimeter. Oh, man. So anyway, and why is he going down there? You know, like, of course, the election, but, you know, continuity of government, and they're using it as a front, or he's going down to meet the UFOs. That's a joke, guys. Okay, So that's going on right now. Earthquake down near Antarctica. But again, that's a result of the upwelling pressure coming off the West Pacific. And that's going to carry on, guys. It's not going to let up. It's actually going to get a lot stronger here over the next few days. We had 3 deep earthquakes around the whole Pacific in the past day. You can already see the past 3 to 4 days of earthquakes. Okay, now look at the last day. You can see which way it's going. It means it's going to head over to Europe, unfortunately. So not only do you have a deep earthquake that's going to cause a 4.7, not only do you have a bunch of hidden earthquakes over here in the Mideast that are not showing up into Siberia for some reason. Maybe it's because we're at war with them. I don't know. Anyways, now you have a double whammy coming in 48 hours. Within 48 hours, I will be reporting to you, what is tonight, Monday night, Tuesday night? By Wednesday night, my time, Wednesday night, 10 p.m. my time, Wednesday night, I'll be reporting to you about a new influx of earthquakes that's significant. And that the people there, I'm sorry to, we'll be talking about how you're shaking and how things are starting, this earthquake, scared everybody. And again, you who are paying attention, you'll know. You'll see it coming in by tomorrow. You'll see the swarm striking across Turkey and Greece again. You'll see everything starting to pick back up in Italy. You'll see it increase and you'll say, yes, the deep earthquake, the 2.7 he told me about yesterday is now translating up underneath us. And, we got a 5. Well, it looks like those earthquakes in the Mideast were real. It looks like they should have put them on the feed is what you will be saying. Instead of running around going, oh my God, earthquake. You'll say, damn, those earthquakes were real. The ones that he was talking about. The ones that didn't make the feed that we should all known about. Those are our options. And I'm not trying to be dramatic about it, but it's going to increase. And I hate to give you bad news in an area that's already been hit and has a lot of problems going on. So just want you to know what's going on. You got another deep earthquake right next to you. Woohoo! I know you're happy about that. So over here in the West Pacific, what do we watch out for now? Well, you can pretty much see it. The whole Southwest Pacific has now compensated out already, starting to. Day 1. We still have 6 more days to watch this thing because of 3 deep earthquakes across 6,000 miles or 8,500 kilometers. That's a huge distance to move down below. You can imagine the upwelling pressure coming up on the whole underside of this triangular plate going across 6,000 miles from Japan to Fiji. What that is going to do to the north. What's that going to do all around the plate? It's going to compensate. It's going to move over to the east. It's going to cause a greater earthquake activity on the west coast. I'll get into the United States in a second. And it'll cause new activity down in South America and Central America. That's a noteworthy increase. We will see a dramatic increase in the next few days across the Pacific due to these new deep earthquakes. And I'll be on top of it. We have to watch our silent zones. So what's our silent zone? Well, it's pretty obvious. You can see one here in Japan between our 4.8 and the movement up in the Aleutians. But you have to take into account Kamchatka is also erupting. So really that'll be the end point for our silent zone to the north. And our halfway point takes us right in here into central Japan, northeast of Tokyo, pretty much right on land. And we have to start looking for an increase in magnitudes. So you see all the 5s happening, 5.4, 5.4, 5.6. That's just in the past few hours, last 12 hours. Well, that's the whole South Pacific moving at 5.6 level. So either one combined earthquake will strike to the north, or we will see the 5.6s, or maybe even larger, 5.8 to 6, strike up to the north as compensation for all this movement down to the south. And it might only be a short amount of time from now, guys. So you have to get the warning out to the people in Japan now, pronto, to tell them to watch just northeast of Tokyo for an upper 5 to 6.0 earthquake to be occurring within 72 hours. Now we're watching for full 6 days, but I'm leaning towards the first 72 hours is when this area is going to be struck. Very small area. Hasn't been struck by a noteworthy size earthquake in a fairly long time. It's pretty much the middle point between our 2 zones that have moved. Might be a little bit further north. Might need to adjust that to the coast of Honshu, Fukushima. Okay, so anyways, it's a small stretch. That's the spot to watch there. But there's other spots between the 4.7 and 5.4. This takes us into the eastern Solomon Islands at our triangular bend again. Again, we have to watch for 1 to 2 magnitudes larger than the 4.7. Could go, again, up to 6.7, striking in this middle point. 5.7 to 6.7. That'll hold true with the 5s, 5.6, 5.4, striking to the west, and a 5.4, 5.6 down to the south. Okay? So, silent points, right? Now, over in the United States, check it out. Check it out, U.S., Midwest. First of all, 2 things that I told you to happen were going to happen last night have happened. 1, the superfracture has spread across the state, causing a new swarm of earthquakes topping out near 4.0, 3.8 downgrade, 4.2 detected. So, new swarm, western Oklahoma, like I said, 1 large earthquake causes a superfracture, which is nothing more than causing a disturbance at all these other wells nearby, up to a couple hundred miles away, depending on the intensity of the shaking. Once one well goes, it breaks, it causes a shake. The shake then shakes up other wells. One of those breaks, or a couple of those break. They then release more gas and water under high pressure into shallow areas of the bedrock, and it causes another earthquake, near 4.0 in this case. So, a superfracture. Secondly, I said, watch Illinois. Now, it's been months since we've seen any earthquake activity strike in Illinois, but it struck at the fracking operations 60 miles south of those fracking operations that I showed you guys. So, what does that mean? Well, we said watch between a 2.0 and 3.0 to strike at the Midwest fracking ops, and 2.7 struck. It just means that pressure transfers to the east, just as we told you. So it's going to strike further to the east. We're going to see more pressure transfer to the east. And like I told you to watch for over the next couple days, we'll see a 4, upper 3, lower 4 strike up here in the northeast, just north of New York, maybe near Maine or New Brunswick, southeast Quebec. Okay? Additionally, on the west coast, guys, take a look at it. Okay, new swarm going all the way down the coast, and we have new activity striking down in Southern California. Well, I would dare say that's striking because of the activity that hit over the past 24 hours. And if I can get that to populate. Okay, there we go. Okay, so take a look at it, guys. We have activity spreading all the way down the coast, following the movement on the coast. So it's pressed all the way over to the east coast at this point, which means the pressure button is getting ready to be reset. It means there's going to be a new earthquake on the west coast within the next 72 hours. Probably 48 hours. Within the next 48 hours. But, again, could take an additional day, just depending on how long it takes to strike across Japan. But, west coast. Where this time? This time we're watching northern Gorda Escarpment, I guess that's the Gorda Ridge, going up into the cleft segment. So it should strike out to sea at this point. What magnitude? Well, guys, we're going up a whole notch, and this takes us into the low 5 range. We were looking again last week for upper 4, take it up the next notch, and that takes us into 5.0 range. So 5 striking on the coast in the next 48 to 72 hours, and it's going to be off the shore, so it's not going to cause damage. That will then cause a similar size earthquake over to the east in Oklahoma again. Again, we'll see an upper 4 to lower 5. You're not done yet. Every time the west coast is struck, every single time, we see movement go over to the east and cause similar size earthquakes. So it's going to happen again. Guys, I don't even know what to say. The reason it's happening is because of these deep earthquakes. These deep earthquakes are our enemies. We do not want to see deep earthquakes occur like this, especially in conjunction with one another over the space of 6,000 miles. It means the potential for a very large earthquake is now looming. When I say very large, it goes above 6.5. If it strikes on land, it's going to cause major damage. Strikes in Japan and Tokyo or something. Mexico City, silent zone. Look at our silent zones. Look at our silent zones. And I'm not saying that's going to happen in Mexico City. I'm just saying our silent zones are the next spots to be struck. Luckily, the East Pacific compensates out a little bit less usually than what strikes over in the West Pacific. But over in Japan, I'm primarily concerned because it's the middle point in the middle of the silent zone on the area that's already moved across 6,000 miles. We're going to compensate over to the east, and that's why we're going to see 5 strike off the west coast. But it's not going to stop there. We're going to see, you may remember, this past week, it was just 4s pretty much down here across Central America. Let's see if we still have those. Well, excuse me again. Wow. Okay. Yeah. So for the last several days, 4.7 and a 4.9. That's it. Well, this is going to increase. It's going to increase double that. We're going to see multiple 5s. So again, this is going to fill up with 5s in the next few days. A dramatic increase based upon the 3 areas that moved. Again, you can take a look at it. You see them raised high off the globe there? That represents the 3 areas that just moved again today. Some of these are from last week, but I mean just where the 3 large place marks are raised high off the globe, that spot just moved again today. Well, that means the whole East Pacific is going to compensate. And since we only saw 2 4s here this past week, guys, it's going to be way larger than where we were this past week. Go up 1 magnitude and we get to 5.9s and 6s. So I think we're going to see a dramatic increase in 6s this week. I mean, it's going to be like, you guys will be like, oh my God, you were right, Dutch, it really increased. Well, it's all based upon the deep earthquakes happening in the West Pacific. And it spills out over to Europe, and it goes over to the United States. It doesn't just stop on the west coast of the U.S., it goes all the way across the plate. And that's what's happening pretty much right now. That's why the New Madrid was struck by 3. It's why we saw 3 this past week up on the East Coast. Because of the 4.1 this past week. The other 4.1. So we had a previous 4.1 that kicked it all off and pushed over and caused a 3.1 on the East Coast. Then we have another 4.1 that strikes. And then that was downgraded. It was actually more like an upper 4 to 5, downgraded to 4.1. But then it caused the Oklahoma earthquake we're seeing now. So look at the superfracture. Behold what happens after a 5.0 occurs and shakes up all the other nearby wells. Well, you get several earthquakes topping out near 4, 3.8, and again, many stations reporting 4. And if I go look it up, we should probably do that. Let's just go look up the largest earthquake of the day. Since we called for a 4, and again, a 4 hit, it would probably be prudent for us to look this up. So I get my information from the USGS page, and we just go put this in on Google Earth. Now, the reason this struck is obvious, but I don't want to spoil it for anybody. So, anybody who's new, you need to take a look at where this earthquake struck. See this? 3.8 struck here. All right, well, what's this right there? That is what we call a frac well, an injection well, where they'll inject a large amount of what they call wastewater down into a drilled well that then fractures the shale and releases natural gas or oil. And look at the size of the operation here, okay? So all of these little square pads, every little white blotch you see on the map here is a different pumping operation where humans have drilled into the earth. Every single little white pad. And do you need me to prove it to you? Pick one. Pick one randomly. We can just randomly zoom in. Stop. There. Boom. Zoom in there. Okay? There it is. They're even out there with the truck. Look at that. Okay. Frac well there. Randomly. Let's just go down again. Just tell me when to stop. Okay. Stop. Boom. Zoom in. Another frac well. That's how many there are, guys. You can randomly zoom in on multiple counties across the area and hit a huge patch. So, and here's the ones I marked. Look how many I marked versus how many I got up to the north and I'm like, you know what, screw this. Look how many there are. I wonder if we have a street level. Hey, we do have a street level. Let's go in at street level. There it is. There's one on one side of the road. Here's one on the other. Perfect example. All right, so let's see if we can zoom in. There's our pipeline. This is actually our wellhead here, guys, drilled in. Then we have our storage tanks. And somewhere in there we have a compressor to feed the pipeline. Okay, and these are all connected by pipelines, and it just gives you an example. I mean, it just goes on for miles and miles and miles. So, weak point created in the crust by humans, and they never assumed that pressure would transfer across the plate. That's the big goof on the part of professional geologists, that pressure would transfer from the west coast to the east coast along the interior edge of the craton. They thought that was impossible. Well, hate to break it to you guys, but it's not impossible. It's actually happening to you real time, and it usually only takes a few hours from the point where the west coast is hit to the point where we see the Midwest hit, then the east coast hit, all along the edge of the plate. Now, South America. Guys, we really actually need to open up a copy of Volcano Discovery by searching eruptions for the day. You do this by two ways. Search the word eruption on Google or any other search engine. Refine your search for the last 24 hours. And you'll see Volcano Discovery comes up top news, and we want to click on Volcano News. And then we're going to look at our volcano advisories for the day, and we have some new additions. So, Shivulek in Kamchatka, Ulawan in Papua New Guinea, this is expected. Dukono in Halmahera, that's expected. But Raputu in the North Island. North Island. Also, check this out. Sabancaya. How's that for a prediction, guys? Wow. Okay, last week I showed you the volcanoes down in Peru, and I mentioned Ubinas, and then I mentioned Sabancaya next to it. And Sabancaya was struck by multiple earthquakes, and I issued this like little warning, and I got chastised by somebody who lives there and says, oh, you know, forecasting for that earthquake, or for that volcano is entirely impossible. Well, okay, sorry, I didn't mean to applaud myself, but there it is. Sabancaya struck. Also, new activity at Copihu, which is at central Chile, Argentina border region. But I want to know where this volcano is, because I've never heard of it before. So, let's go find out. North Island. Oh, New Zealand. New Zealand? Really? What happened there? New Zealand? Do you guys hear about an eruption in New Zealand? Huh. Volcanic tremor has increased the notch since mid-October, but not enough to trigger a raise in alert status of the volcano, which remains at level 1. They issued a note, but they don't expect the volcano to erupt soon. Well, let's go take a quick look down at New Zealand. Now, I just talked about the earthquakes last night in New Zealand striking down south, down near Wellington. Also talking about how the catcher's glove position in the north part of the island is catching most of the pressure. But there's pressure transferring down the coast. So let's open up the GeoNet. Take a look at the last 30 earthquakes. See what we got going on. Yeah, okay, well, I would dare say that's centered around the area. Now, not directly at the volcano, but with new deep earthquakes happening all around. Is anybody shocked? Look, we had deep earthquakes press up under the whole West Pacific. Now there's volcanic tremors that are not going to lead to an eruption showing up at volcanoes as far south as New Zealand. Also, Papua New Guinea erupting, Vanuatu over to Dukono. Wow, wow, wow. Okay, I'm glad I went and looked that up. That's always interesting to me, even though it's not going to lead to a large earthquake. It's just proof. Again, pressure is coming up from down below. It's coming up from down below and displacing the whole plate. There we go. So, Central America, what are we watching for? Now that you know that the activity in Mexico has stopped, volcano-wise, no new reports, Turrialba finally quieting off, this means earthquake threat in Central America. Where? Well, it's going to be between our movement in California, Southern California, and all the way down here in Peru. Okay, so in between those 2 points, where does that take us? Well, it's a pretty vast area, first of all, but this takes us in on the coast of, looks like El Salvador. Let's go. El Salvador, Nicaragua needs to be on watch, and we need to be on watch for mid-range 5 to upper 5. Like I said, it could go larger if I'm wrong. If it goes up into mid-range 6, I'm sorry. But we're more leaning towards mid-range 5, 5.8 maybe at the most, because of the other 5s striking around the plate over the past couple days. Now down to the south, we have volcanic eruptions taking care of things down in Peru. But what does that mean? It means the area to the north, in between Nicaragua, where the 4.9 is, and going down to the south, where we have our most recent white earthquake marked here. Well, in between those two zones puts us back down into South Colombia, North Ecuador. And we'll watch for a combined total between the 4s to the north, or I'm sorry, the 5 we're expecting to the north, and all the 5s down to the south. There's at least 3 or 4, so that takes us to mid-range 5 as well, holding true with the rest of the Pacific. So our magnitudes are being determined by two sources now. 1, the middle point, and 2, the overall pressure translating out around the plate. So sum it all up one more time. You're up. By 48 hours from now, I will be reporting to you about a new increase in earthquake activity. Tomorrow, you will see a dramatic increase off this 2.7 right there. Secondly, we're looking to see if 5s struck back here across Asia, going up into Siberia. If 5s struck, then you go up a whole nother magnitude. So if we're watching for a 4.7 right now, and a bunch of 5s strike behind you, then that means we're watching for a 5.5 to 5.7. Okay? So that's a big deal. That's a big deal for the next 72 hours. Tomorrow we'll know. We will know whether it's just a 4.7 or is it going to be the greater earthquakes. The way we'll know is this area across Turkey and Greece will just fill up with earthquakes. It'll just fill up. And when it fills up, that'll let you know there were 5s. If it doesn't fill up, then there weren't. It's that simple. United States, we're watching for that 5, again, 5.0. We'll put it right at 5.0 to strike right off the coast in the next 72 hours. So we're going to have a dramatic increase over the next 72 hours. That includes Central America. So again, Central America, you're included on that. That includes Japan. Going to be busy, guys, next 3 days. Unless something dramatic happens to change it all up. I'll be on to correct myself if anything else goes wrong or changes. But otherwise, that's how it should stand for the next 2 to 3 days. Hope you guys get what you can out of this warning and get it out to the people who I've named over in Italy, in Japan, on the West Coast, just to name a few, Central America. Maybe get it down to the people down in Central America and let them know to watch out for it if it strikes on land. If I'm wrong by 100 miles and it strikes on land, then we're talking about major damage for some of these areas. You know, upper 5s, lower 6s are enough to cause serious problems. Just ask the people in Italy. You know, what did that 6.1 do to you? The original 6.1, or the 6 back in August that killed the 300 people. That was a 6 too. So, or just a 6, I'm sorry, 6, which I think they downgraded, but it was like 6.1 maybe, I don't know. August earthquake, like a 6, and that killed 300 people. Okay, so much love. Tanto amore to the people in Italy. I thank you for tuning in, and for the people who are new here, also, thank you for being part of this. If you are new, please subscribe. It's how I grow my channel on YouTube. And if you like my work, please donate. I've got a donation option listed down below. That's my public fundraiser, which I show every night. And we do this, again, I do it for free. If you like my work, consider giving. It's no pressure. It's just if you like it, maybe drop a few bucks in and help me out for the year so I can be here for the rest of the year to do this. So there we are. Much love to everybody who's given. That's so cool. For real. Take a look at it again. You guys have really come through. What else? That's about it. That's all we've got. So have a good evening, morning, afternoon, or night, Truman Show style. And, of course, most importantly, have an earthquake plan ready. Do not be scared. Be prepared. Being prepared means knowing what to do in an earthquake. So if you're in a structure and you think there may be the potential for collapse or for objects to fall, you need to either be under a secure surface or you need to be under a door frame. You need to be under something that's not going to fall on you, first of all, or something to protect you from falling objects. That's number one. Two, you need to know what to do right after an earthquake if you're trapped, or if you're in your house and you need to go immediately shut off the gas line if it's been a large enough earthquake. If you have natural gas coming into your house, you may have lost your electricity. Finding that gas line in your basement or wherever may be hard. So go locate it now. Know where it is. Put a wrench next to it. You know, on my gas line here in my house, I got a little zip tie and I tied a wrench. And I put a wrench right next to the gas line and just tied it with a zip tie on there. And it's just sitting down there in the basement, hanging on the gas line itself with a plastic zip tie. Earthquake strikes, I can just run down there in the dark and feel for it and just turn it off. I don't even need a light. If I really am, running down there, I can feel for it and turn it. So just little things. Cost you a couple bucks, buy a wrench and a plastic zip tie, and then you could save your house from burning down if the gas line breaks in an earthquake. Just little things, guys, baby steps. I don't know what to tell you to do for each house. I don't know what you got. Some of you might have a flat screen TV. Other of you might have a little small box of a TV that's not going to fly off and hit you. Just depends on what you got in your house. So look around, make the plans, be prepared, and make sure your kids know about it if you got kids, because they're the ones who really freak. They get scared. Kids get scared. So let them know. Let them know what to do when an earthquake strikes. And then you as the adult can pay attention to, like you pay attention to the weather, you can pay attention to the seismic weather, which way the seismic pressure is coming from and flowing to. And you'll know when your storm is coming your way, and you'll be prepared. Okay? Peace out, guys. Much love. And one more time, I'm not really getting political. I will explain it to you guys again later tonight when I do my package opening. And by the way, forgive my throat, guys. I am on the edge. I am losing my voice. And I can't explain it. I've just been talking way too much. But anyways, got a bunch of packages I'm going to open that were sent to my P.O. box. And we'll be addressing the election and everything else going on. But that'll be for the package opening. So, all right, yeah. So that's all I've got for you guys. And I want to again thank you for being part of this. Please subscribe if you can. And I will be back if anything else goes down. Tanto amore, much love.